on this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists.
Most of the laser services for hygiene is non-contact. So that just means it's a standard setting. We don't have to worry about tissue interaction. We don't have to worry about any of that. When we're doing scaling and root planing or deep cleaning periodontal, non-surgical periodontal therapy, that's when your settings become important because you're actually trying to remove the diseased tissue. There are several beautiful points with Biolase. One of them is that they do the research. They make sure that what they're claiming is true, and everything they claim is FDA approved for the lasers they use. The beauty of Biolase is that we have an on-demand program online that you can do the bulk of the didactic education at your own pace. So you can do this module, you can do half this module when you have time.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Everyone, welcome back to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists. We have a special bonus episode for you this weekend, brought to you in partnership with our buddies over at Biolase. One of the things that I think we get asked quite a bit is like, hey, can you guys do an episode on lasers? And I get it, and I know it's a kind of like a hot topic. It's been a hot topic for years, and as our scopes are expanding as hygienists, more and more states are adopting it. But I think for me, I kept feeling that there wasn't quite the right person who can explain it in the way that I needed to be explained. So when Christine was introduced to me, I was like, finally, yes. And so we gave the green light for this episode, and here we go. So let's talk about who should listen to this episode. So this episode is going to be for the person, and maybe you've never used a laser. Maybe you kind of know that they exist in our, dental hygienist space, but you're not really sure about how they work or why they work or any of those things. Then this episode is for you. If you are a hygienist that's currently maybe using the laser a little bit, you have it available to you, but you're like, I'm just not super strong in it. Or maybe you just need a little bit more knowledge or encouragement or whatever, this episode is for you also. And I think maybe like that person that's just a nerd, a CE junkie that just loves consuming all sorts of dental knowledge. The thing is, you can't just read about lasers anywhere. It's kind of hard to find good, credible, qualified studies and research. And so in this episode, we talk a lot about that. We talk about, so Biolase, as the partner of this, they do a lot of their own independent research. And so you'll hear about what resources are available to you and how you can access all that. So this episode is for you also. And I think if you're just a casual listener, just give this one a listen. It's great. It's really fun. Thank you all so much for listening every week. Thank you for our guest co-host, Erica Flateau, for jumping on this episode at RDH Under One Roof. Also, thank you to our partners over at Biolase, and enjoy this episode, everyone.
A tale of two hygienists.
All right, listeners, welcome to the interview portion of the podcast. We're joined today by Chris. Chris, thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
One of the things that we love to do, we love to connect our guests to our audience. You've been in the industry, people probably actually know who you are, but for those who are maybe new grads or just getting out of school, can you just kind of give us a background of like who you are and like where you're coming from?
So I have been a hygienist for 36 years. I still practice, not as much as I used to. I did go into consulting, and I still do consulting with offices, just helping them get their protocols and systems in place and ready to rock and roll. I started using a laser in 2006 in Colorado, and back then it was, hey, here's a laser, go ahead and use it. You really didn't have to have any training. But in 2007, I did take the standard proficiency with the Academy of Laser Dentistry, and I was hooked. It was wonderful, and I won't work in an office without it now. So,
can we go back to that time for a minute? Because I'm so curious. I first of all, cracks me up. It's like, here's the manual, like, teach yourself how to do this. And don't hurt anyone, I guess. But like, what was the quality of like the laser then, kind of compared to like now? Like, is it the same thing that we have?
No. So then it was, you had to figure it all out.
Yeah.
Like, what wattage do I use?
Right.
What tip do I use? How do I set my hertz? What's a joule? And you had to do math to find out what settings you needed.
Hygienists love that, by the way.
Oh, yeah. That's why I went into hygiene. I can count to 32. I'm like, sold. I can do this.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult. Now it's basically plug and play. I hit laser bacterial reduction and everything is set for me. Now I can go up or down depending on how much infection there is, depending on the color of the tissue, things like that. But I just hit it. And here we go. And it's beautiful and it's very consistent.
So as you're like doing like that math, I mean, the margin of error probably has got to be like pretty significant. Did you have there was no social media really. Like, how did you collaborate with other people to be like, oh, this is what I'm doing that I've seen results in versus,
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Unfortunately, there's a lot of trial and error at the time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, that could have been better. But the Academy of Laser Dentistry, and I am going to tout them, they had a huge presence, in my life. I could call, because there was no, online stuff, I could call anybody and say, hey, I'm struggling here. And they would walk me through. To be honest, Angie Wallace is big with the kids. She was my mentor, and I could call her at any point in time and she would help me.
Nice.
It was wonderful.
Man, I long for those times. I mean, there's still lots of great people out there that are helping out, but you keep hearing like the stories of yesteryear of like, man, we were
pick
united.
up the phone and talk to someone.
Like people were like, and they were excited to talk about it. Like, can you imagine the nerd like of lasers like that you guys were?
I know.
Like, this little group of like nerds doing that.
Big nerds.
So I still want to stay in that time for just a little bit longer, just because like, there's an evolution, there's a progression. So as going through all of this, they started to standardize settings. They started to figure that out. When you had a patient in the chair, what are the things that you're looking at as far, you mentioned like, how much inflammation there is. Were you constantly changing settings on different areas of the mouth? I know nothing about lasers, so I apologize for being so ignorant about all of this.
Yeah. Most of the laser services for hygiene is non-contact. So that just means it's a standard setting. We don't have to worry about tissue interaction. We don't have to worry about any of that. When we're doing scaling and root planing or deep cleaning non-surgical periodontal therapy, that's when your settings become important, because you're actually trying to remove the diseased tissue.
Gotcha.
So if the patient has a lot of color to their tissue, like a purpley red or something like that, it's going to react much faster and a little more aggressively. And you'd want to bring your laser down a little bit, which is just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Back then it was a lot of calculation.
It was a little more different. It was a little different.
Yeah.
Or if their tissue is naturally darker, and then the opposite, if it's lighter in color, say in a smoker where there's a lot of capillary destruction, I'd have to bring my laser up a little bit. So then that's really the only time you have to quote unquote mess with the settings on your laser is then.
Yeah, sure. So now enter Biolase. When did Biolase kind of get into the picture? Were they pretty early on?
Yes.
Okay.
So Biolase has been around a really long time. And the beauty I found in Biolase, and I've used them all. I think I have used every diode laser out there. There are several beautiful points with Biolase. One of them is that they do the research. They make sure that what they're claiming is true, and everything they claim is FDA approved for the lasers they use.
Yes.
So it's not like, hey, we see that this works, and sometimes a lot of the other companies will go off Biolase's research, but Biolase is the only company that can say, we've proven this, we've done the studies, we've done the work, and then they continue to do the work. Like, what else? What's next? What could make this better? What could make this more efficient? So, for instance, we had the Epic. We had a couple diodes, and then they launched the hygiene diode, right? Well, the hygiene diode is strictly for hygienists. Its price point is less than the surgical diode, and you can do hygiene services with it only. So a doctor would not use that diode.
Nice. So you can stay in the op of the hygienist. Okay.
And she can use it for he
or
can use it for
thank you very
anything.
much.
Sorry about that. He or she, Andrew, he or she can use it for anything they want to, within the hygiene scope of practice.
Yeah.
So it's so awesome. And it looks just like the Epic X, but it's purple.
I do have questions like geography. Are you seeing like certain parts of the U.S. are utilizing your services more than other parts?
Well, let's just say this. there are a handful of states that still haven't passed laser use for hygiene. Georgia just passed a couple of weeks ago, and I had several Georgia lovelies stop at my booth going, what do I do next? So I've kind of steered them in the right direction, but it really depends on the office in and of itself. Okay. Are they a progressive office? Are they the ones that are going to do the research, find out what's best for their patient? Are they the ones that are going to take that next step to make that investment in their team? Those are so I can't really do it by,
like Texas is doing more than Washington or Idaho.
I can't really
do
it by that way, but it's more of are they willing to make an investment in their hygiene team to deliver the best possible treatment for their patient? And if that's yes, then they take up on the diode lasers for their hygiene team.
So are you finding that it's the doctors driving and saying, hey, hygienist, we want this now in our practice? Or is this hygienist coming to the doctors saying, doctors, we would love to be able to provide the service for our patients because we know how great it is?
Yes, it's both.
Okay.
It's both. But a lot of times it is a hygienist, like at wonderful events like this.
Okay.
They come to the booth and they're like, tell me about this. What does it do? Then they take their stuff back to their doctor, and try to work them into it. The doctors and hygiene tend to be a little bit separate islands. Hygiene does their thing, doctor does their thing. One of the things I like to do is bring them together.
Yes.
So that they can have those conversations and back each other up. But it tends to be a little bit of both. A lot of times the doctors will purchase our Waterlays and they'll hear about, the diodes and be like, hey, wait, can I have lasers throughout my office to serve our patients better rather than just in my op? But again, a lot of times it's the hygienist as well.
Yeah, and it's nice to stick with like one branding kind of throughout like that. The doctor's doing something they're comfortable with. They know it. They know like customer support and things like that. They already know that process, and that's as easy. Let's just bring it into the hygiene room as well. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, say I want to integrate this into our office, and say for instance we have 3 hygienists, one doctor, and we want to go to our doctor and say we found out about this great product. We would really like to integrate it instead of using the laser system that's meant for a doctor, and this one is just for hygienists. It's the settings are there for us. It's the price points there, doctor, for us. How could we have one Epic and use it for 3 hygienists and it's in one room, or do we need to, what is the portability of it? What is the usage expectation of it for a great hygiene program? Are you using this every single hour, or is it just for special situations?
That's an excellent question. Let's hit the portability of it first. Yes, extremely portable. Okay, it is a unit and a foot pedal. There's no cords. Okay, so the unit is rechargeable. The foot pedal is lithium battery, and then it's a Bluetooth.
Nice.
Cool. So it's literally you take 2 things and you move them. Now let's talk ideal. Ideally, each hygienist should have her or his own Epic hygiene in her op or his op. And the reason is because our 3 hygienists each have their own Epic. I set it up like I set up my instruments, like my Profi angle. I wipe it down. I get a new tip. It's all ready to rock and roll, and it's right there.
It's just part of your program.
Part of my program. We use it for every non-surgical periodontal therapy or scaling or root planing, every single one. It's not an option. It's part of your treatment plan. It also goes into part of your treatment as a periodontal maintenance.
Yes.
Okay, because they have the disease.
Yes.
So we want to keep that under control and maintain it. And then I actually offer it to every single Profi patient that I have. So every single healthy person that I have, because it really handles non-clinical infection. So non-clinical just means I can't see it.
Right.
Maybe it's not bleeding yet.
Right.
Maybe it's not sloughing tissue yet. Yet is the key word.
Yeah.
But if I can attack something subclinical, more's the better. And I just tell them that. I just tell the patient, hey, we have a laser. It's wonderful at reducing the amount of nasty bacteria in your mouth. It also stimulates your body to heal and turn over cells. It's the best thing we have to keep you from getting gum infections.
Oh, and that's what it's about, right? We're supposed to be prevention specialists first.
Exactly.
Right.
And by the by, if you have disease, we'll also treat that.
Perfect.
That's like the game plan for that. Yeah.
Yes. And treat at the earliest stages. That's another thing with dentistry in general. We should be treating at the earliest possible stage. So.
Okay. So I want to go back to something that you'd mentioned about like the hygienist and the doctors like partnering together. I understand like when we are doing like a presentation of, hey, this is why it's good for the office, have them together. But you all are also known for like education.
Right.
And so can we talk a little bit about like the educational offerings that you all have, and then who's it ideal for? Because in my mind, I love doing my CE with my docs. Like, let's sit next to each other. Let's take notes. Let's, do our workflows. Let's get a plan going. But I'm sure that you all have CE for everything.
Yes. So that's another thing with Biolase that I love. A lot of the other lasers are like, here's your laser. Best of luck. So each state is different, right? Texas is 12 hours of laser education. Colorado's 8. Some are like, whatever.
Yeah.
So it really just depends. The beauty of Biolase is that we have an on-demand program online that you can do the bulk of the didactic education at your own pace.
Nice.
So you can do this module, you can do half this module when you have time, and then the doctors and the hygienists have access to that, and really should. The doctors should always be trained in what the hygienists are going to do in the practice.
100%.
So they
How
should
can they
always
supervise if they don't understand what we're doing?
Right, yeah, exactly. So they should always be trained on that. We also have live webinars once a month, sometimes twice a month, depending how quickly they fill up on just laser diode laser training, for the hygienists and the doctors. And then we have in person, like this afternoon. We have 50 hygienists attending our training this afternoon.
Workshop
here.
Wonderful workshop
so
here.
everyone, by the way, we're recording this at RDH Under One Roof. That's what she's talking about.
Yes.
Sorry.
Andrew. So a lot of that, and the education is continually evolving. So if we start getting, a lot of the same questions, we start incorporating those into modules like, biofilm therapy. How does diode laser fit in with that? And because biofilms, I don't want to say it's new on the horizon, it's newer.
Yes.
On the horizon of dental hygiene. So one of our ladies did a webinar about that, and that's live and on demand. So anybody could just go on there and watch it.
I feel like you guys have really tried to separate yourself from other, I don't want to say your competitors, but like other people in this space.
Right.
Education definitely is one of them. I want to go back into like the studies and the research, because I think that is probably, is that the thing that would set you the most apart, you think?
I think so, yeah. We have professionals in each category of all of our lasers. So we have periodontal professionals. For our water lasers, we have endodontic specialists. We have general doctor specialists. We have hygienists, that go through and do all of the things. And it really, I think that is what sets us apart the most.
Can we talk about how are they conducting this research? What are they looking at as far as, again, I don't know the space very well, but I would assume that they're looking, okay, this is safe because of this study, or this is the type of procedure you should do in this case.
Right.
What kind of things are they looking at?
Just that.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this working? Is this working long term? Are we getting the results that we want to see? And if we're not, what do we need to do, to alter those results? And obviously they need to compare it, right? They can't just say, oh, this is working. Is this working compared to traditional, like curettage, right? So or reducing bacterial in the pocket and in the tissue. Is it working? So in general, we use our ultrasonics or our microsonics, whatever we use hand instruments, right? That's the GOAT of all the things we used to do. Why is laser different? Well, laser is different because it's simply using light. Now, before we did those things, and then we use chemotherapeutics to decrease what's going on in the periodontal pocket. Okay. Well, what the research we're showing is that we can use a light wave, and reduce that bacteria longer term than the chemotherapeutics without the negative impact that the chemotherapeutics had, on the person and on the tissue. Are we
expecting that onset to be, so I can see sometimes as I'm scaling a root planing, if I start in the upper right and I work my way through, and by the time I'm done, I look at the upper right and I already see it's great.
Yes.
Is that what we're expecting for lasers as well, or is it going to be a longer onset?
So in our laser bacterial reduction, which I would do, before your hygiene service, right? I'm not going to see anything. I always compare it to a little bit to a fluoride treatment. You're not going to see anything, right? This is going to be a long-term therapeutic moment. Now, when we use laser in periodontal therapy, we are going to see that dead tissue come off. We're going to see that tissue start to tighten up and flatten out, and the color start to come down to to a paler pink. Now, you're not going to get pale pink, tight, healthy tissue. And if you had that patient back in 3 to 5 days and just looked at the tissue, it really does look significantly better than even scaling and root planing. And their postoperative discomfort is significantly less.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah. Because part of that, I mean, practice building is like make sure patients are feeling good after the procedures.
Right.
And, yeah.
Right.
That's huge.
And one of the worst things for a hygienist to see is a failing implant. And have you had success around those? I know we've talked a lot about scaling and root planing, but have you had a success when you just don't know what to do for that patient?
Yes. Well, there's 2 types of implant infection, right? There's implant mucositis and there's implantitis. Okay. So mucositis, what it just says is just strictly in the gum tissue. And we've had a lot of success with the diode lasers and treating that and getting that under control. When it gets into implantitis, which means that the supporting bone structure of the implant is challenged, that's when we have to get them to either our general doctors who are using the Waterlase or to a periodontist, to be able to handle that situation.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely.
And well, for dental hygienists that are new to this laser technology, what advice would you give them to get started?
I think the big advice, and a lot of our hygienists are this way anyway, do your research, get online, get onto Biolase. A lot of stuff there is free to watch, free information. Get with your rep in your area who could also give you a ton of information. And then, of course, if you have any questions that you really need to have answers to, just reach out to me.
Yeah.
My information is right on the Biolase website. It's there. I'm happy to answer a question. Email me and I will get back with you, I promise.
Just like the good old days.
Just
We
like
called
the
you
good
an
old
intern.
days. I'm old, so it's a good old days. The other thing is once you start incorporating your laser into your practice, have patience with yourself, and just know you can get, hygienist's biggest 4-letter word is time. I don't have time. Okay, you have the time. Okay, it's a few minutes, 5 minutes for your laser bacterial reduction. When you're using with SRP, it's a little bit longer, but not much. But you have the time. Trust me, and you can incorporate it. Now, if you're running around looking for the laser, that's another story.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of selfish. I want my own laser.
Yeah.
And I want my own intraoral camera.
Yes.
Okay.
My own sensor.
Yes. And well, I fought for that one and they just laughed at me. So I didn't get the sensor, but I did get a sensor for hygiene that hangs outside, in a central location. So that's good. But
then you won't hesitate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You won't hesitate. If I have to get up to get an intraoral camera to take a picture of something, do I really need a picture of it?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with a laser. It needs to be there for me to be able to use. And I use my laser in at least 50% of my day.
Awesome.
At least 50%.
Yeah, the thing that gives you the most time, though, I think, is a healthy patient. So just keep your patients healthy.
Yeah,
That'll
they
give
take
you all
less
the
time.
Invest your 5 minutes now. It'll save time on the next appointment.
Yes.
So
and anecdotally, you'll see it.
Yeah.
Over the months and months and years, you will see that your patients look significantly better all the time.
Oh, I love that. So, yeah, I'm thinking about, I want to preempt some of these people from reaching out to you too soon. Let's talk about some of the challenges real quick before we end this episode. What are I don't want to say FAQs, but what are the frequently asked challenges, I guess, FACs? What are the frequent challenges that people have when they're starting up?
The frequent challenges is, do I know what I'm doing?
Hello.
And am I going to hurt anybody?
Sure.
Those are the two, because besides the time, how do I fit this in? It is, do I know what I'm doing and am I going to hurt anybody? This is not a lightsaber. Okay. I know. No. To hurt somebody with a diode laser, you have to be almost intentionally negligent. Like you have to be trying to hurt somebody with it.
Yeah.
So it's very, and the other thing is that they say, yeah, but how do I know it's working? Because I don't see anything happening. Well, you're not going to. How do you know your fluoride's working? Okay. How do you know, the scaling that you did is working? You don't.
No.
Okay. And then the other one, when we're using it in laser assisted periodontal therapy, is like, how do I know I'm done?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good one.
How do I know I'm done? There's a couple key signs to know when you're done, but the biggest thing is when you know. It's like, how do you know you're done scaling?
Yeah.
When you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just know.
Yeah.
And it will become that intuitive. You are not going to hurt anybody and you're going to significantly help people, even if you didn't, quote unquote, get it all.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to help. It's going to help hugely.
Oh, I love this. Chris, you've been absolutely amazing.
Yes.
I hope you come back on again sometime.
I would love to.
The listeners probably have some questions. Where can they find like the educational resources? How can they get their hands on one? The contact information, anything you can give them to help.
Yes.
Where can they go?
Yes. Do education.biolase.com. That will help them with the education portion. They can get there also by just doing biolase.com. Those are probably your best. And then everything on that website has reach outs. So you can say, I want to contact this person, or I want to, look at having a webinar, or I want whatever it may be. You'll be able to have contact people, from those locations and be able to get an email to somebody who will be very good about answering you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah.
You're so welcome. I appreciate
It
it.
was wonderful to meet you.
Wonderful to meet you too.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.